Welcome to PPR podcast number 150 of these now. My name is Paul. The star of the podcast is to my right. His name is Burt Grossman, former NFL first rounder, now director of football operations for the San Diego Strike Force and co-host of the PPR. Would you like to introduce the man on the hot seat today?
I don't. Ryan Price. No introduction in the coaches community. Anybody watch this? Long-time UC now. Just took the Point Loma job. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Coach. Tell us about the move. Why Point Loma? Why'd you take it?
Point Loma is pretty much the dream situation for me. I've worked in Point Loma for 20 years. I'm a government civilian for the Navy. And so I've had a ton of respect for that community for a long time, watched the program from afar. And for me to go back to being a head coach again, it really had to be the job. And this was the job that there's nowhere else I would rather be.
You know, I don't want you to speak out of school here, but how did it become available? Why did Coach leave?
He wanted to spend more time with his family. He has a young family with young kids that are in sports and athletics and doing different activities. And it's a key time in his life that he really wanted to focus on his family right now.
Now with you, I remember you at UC for like 6 years and then stepped down and then went to La Jolla, right? Weren't you the DC there last year?
I was the DC and assistant head coach at La Jolla last year.
So what makes you, because obviously you know better than anybody, the difference in time between head coach, politics, parents, and DC just seems so much easier and you can actually enjoy football. What would make you want to go back to that grind again?
Yeah, it was definitely fun getting back to coaching just the football part and focusing on coaching defense and not having to deal with the day-to-day of the coach stuff and just being able to focus on actual football. But what it did was reinvigorate my passion for wanting to be a head coach again and really want me to get back into leading a program and feel like someday I might be ready for that again. It wasn't something I was targeting, but when the Point Loma job unexpectedly came open, because that job doesn't come open often, 5 head coaches in school history. So when that job came open, I just felt like I had to put my hat in the ring, and it's really what motivated me to get back to it.
The coaches can get into it for the role that they have in the development of young men and women, whatever, depending on the sport. They get into it because it's not so much about the wins and losses, it's about mentorship. And then there's coaches that get into it for wins and losses because they are working at a prominent program. What are you getting into it for out of those two categories? Do you see, is it important to win or is it more important just to run a good program?
So my philosophy and what I'm about, I'm a character and culture guy. I'm in the business of helping build exceptional young people. That's why I'm in coaching. That's my passion for it. That's why I do it. And I believe when you focus on doing that and you do all the little things right, yeah, of course, we're going to focus on the X's and O's and get the football part right. But the wins come when you do all the little things right and you build people the right way. So I'm really in it for the business of molding young people. That's why I coach.
And but the obvious, the elephant in the room. Has it changed so much? Because, now there's a high school transfer portal. Whether there is or there isn't, there is one. And it's almost like college. Everything's about, in high school always trickles down. Everything's about social media and, fancy uniforms and transfer here, transfer there. Is it hard to compete old school like it used to be?
With the neighborhood?
Just build a program with neighborhood kids. Is it hard to keep them? I don't know how people keep kids anymore.
Yeah, I think the one thing that really excites me about Point Loma is how deeply tied the community is to that school. And there is a Pop Warner program. The kids are invested in the community. The parents are invested in the community and the school. There's a deep-rooted passion for Point Loma football in Point Loma. And so for me, I feel like it's a perfect place in conjunction with everything that's going on right now to be able to say, hey, let's build the program with the kids in the community and let the program speak for itself and want people to play here because they want to play for Point Loma. Now, understand you're going to fight the transfer portal. That's something that we all know is, or whether we call it a portal or not. I believe parents deserve the right to choose what they think is best for their child. But I also, came up at old school where you wanted to play for your local school. So I'm hoping to just continue to breed that mentality and that passion for Point Loma football in Point Loma.
At the collegiate level, the difference between the haves and the have-nots, besides history and tradition, is NIL money. the difference between the haves and the have-nots at the high school level is the quality of their feeder programs, is it not?
If you can keep them, I mean, but that's it. I mean, it used to be. So it used to be, you know, you'd sit as a freshman, sophomore, earn your way up, be a starter or whatever. And then it used to be kids would transfer because they weren't getting playing time. Now it's stars that are actually transferring it and willing to sit out or willing to risk a year of eligibility. And I guess that's the baffling part to me. And you might see it more, but we're getting kids that are stars with offers leaving the school that they were at. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think, you know, the grass isn't always greener, and you know, every situation is unique in terms of why people choose to go to different places. You know, I'm not a fan of the undue influence, or people are influencing people to leave. If your program speaks for itself and people want to go there, then more power to you. But the undue influence part is the gray area that I think we're living in, and it's a hard thing to try to regulate.
You've been, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are in the Western League next year, right?
We're going to be in the Western, correct?
Oh, congratulations. You must be excited about that.
Thank you.
Jeez.
Well, you probably won't have to worry about Saints, so that's a good part for a couple of years. But that doesn't, I'm not going to, I mean, nobody's going to say it doesn't scare me away, but taking a first-year job in that conference got to be a little rough.
I mean, it's one of the best leagues in San Diego. You know, I've been around a lot of people. They're always like, you want to be the best, play the best. For me, it's really about expectation management, right? We're going to do everything we can to compete. We got a young team with a solid core of young kids. We're going to be light on seniors next year. So it's going to be a growing year for us, but I'm hoping we can exceed expectations and compete. That's really what we're going to push our kids to do.
And is there, when you take a job, you said exceed expectations. Do we even manage expectations anymore? I mean, like, do people realize that it's going to take a few years to build a program? Whether, you know, like Gladnick did it, bring in young guys, not transfer guys. Does the community, when you walk into a job like that, knowing you're going to the Western, do they manage expectations a little bit and say, hey, we're going to have a few years and we're going to build this?
I'm going to make it a point to do that. That's something I've always really made it a point to do, is manage expectations. I can't speak for how people are going to have their own view of how we should be performing, because again, I've known and I'm finding out every day how passionate this community is about this program, and I couldn't love it more, having the amount of support and people that are passionate about Point Loma football. But, you know, there's going to be expectations. Point Loma's always been a successful program. They've had success in recent years. So managing that, people understanding that we're stepping up a level in competition is something I'm just going to do my best to try to manage from my side. But at the end of the day, people are entitled to their opinions, and that's all I can say, really.
Excuse my ignorance, but how does the league switch happen? Is that based on record? How does that happen?
So they take the power rankings that they use for the divisions, and this year it's a 2-year formula. It's a 70-30 formula, and then they build the city conference leagues based on where you fall in those division rankings. So the top 5 schools are in one league, the next 5 are in the next 5 are in the next.
So you're paying.
Since Point Loma in the last few years was ranked numbers 13 and number 17, their 70-30 formula puts them into Division I.
So you're going to pick up the tab for prior success, basically.
Exactly.
I mean, that's actually Sam. I would be scared to take. I mean, I'd be scared to leave. I'd be scared to leave as a DC because, like I said earlier, I mean, it's so much more fun just to coach kids than to deal with all the stuff that nobody wants to do, and then take that on. And take on this new league, and then take on that we have to go to Division I. I mean, it's hard.
Yeah, but you have, I guess before Burt took us off on a tangent, the question I was trying to ask you, Coach, is you referred to your youth program coming up. You have one. Not every school can say, oh, you know, we have a feeder program where, I don't know, I assume the kids they're going to get your playbook at some point. You're going to start indoctrinating them right away, right, to your calls and whatnot?
Absolutely. Yeah, and the youth program at Point Loma is alive and well, and we got solid numbers coming up from the youth level, and we might not get every single one of those kids, but we're going to do our best to try to keep Point Loma kids home and do everything we can to do that.
And that is, I mean, that's the goal. And we've been on here enough. I mean, I remember Bonita Bucks were this great youth organization, but none of them went to Bonita. Los Toros, none of them went to Mount Miguel before Verlaine got there. But it's not as easy as everybody thinks. That you automatically think they're going to go where the feeder is, but most of the kids don't.
But boy, I'd spend a lot of time on that practice field. I'd want every kid to know who I was.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. Like Burt said, it's not something that's easy. There's a lot of families that have very talented athletic backgrounds in Point Loma, and those kids are, have opportunities to do other things. And so we're going to just do what we can to try to keep those kids home and go from there.
My uniforms would be identical. I would.
You do it all, same thing?
I do everything. I want them to get used to my colors, and that way it wouldn't be so, like that hardest year for looking back at my high school career was that freshman year, because you were walking into the unknown. If you're coming up from that youth program.
But you were 18, so it's not that big a deal for you. I mean,
Yes.
You were just registered for the Army,
bloomer.
so you're good.
What was I? You made me lose my train of thought.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Coach, in 2024, what is the hardest part about your job?
The hardest part about our job in 2024, I think kids are always changing, right? The kids continue to adapt every year. They continue to be in the new and different things, and it's staying ahead of that, understanding the kids as they evolve over time and adapting how you coach and managing, their relationships with the kids and understanding what makes them tick is the biggest thing to stay in touch with over time, because coaching the way people did 10, 15, 20 years ago doesn't really, it doesn't reign with the kids of today. You have to find a way to adapt and reach the kids in the way they are now. And so just making sure you build those relationships and make sure that you understand how to get the most out of your kids is the thing you're always trying to stay on top of. The logistics part of being a head coach, it's always a heavy amount of time you got to spend. It comes with the territory, all of that, dealing with the parents. And I'm a big relationships guy. I actually enjoy that part because I'm big on communication and organization. So for me, it's really just making sure you constantly have the pulse of your kids. I
thought you were going to say building a staff.
Well, luckily at Point Loma, they've had a long history of guys that have been, alumni that have coached there, that worked there. And I also have, a good group of guys that I've worked for. So I'm already pretty far ahead on putting together a staff, which has been a really nice part about this transition. I've only been in the job for less than a week, but we're putting a pretty good staff together, and I'm excited about it.
I'm gonna go off that a little because I had one more. I'm still fascinated by the culture thing and how it's shifted. You don't strike me as old school. So how do you draw the line? Because nowadays kids want turnover chains, they want their hype videos, they want this and that.
Yeah.
I can tell you're not that coach, but at some point you have to balance it and you have to give a little bit to them. How do you balance that to where it's not crossing the line for you or too stubborn for them, or how do you do that?
You use the perfect word, balance. It's figuring out a way to make sure the kids are disciplined and accountable and they're doing things the right way, the way that you want them to be done. They're representing themselves, the program, the school, their families the right way, and also allowing them to be kids and have fun. And so there's a tight-knit balance on letting kids be kids and letting them express themselves, and then also make sure that they maintain discipline and they know how to represent themselves in the school and the community. It's tough, and that's why I mentioned that as one of the toughest challenges, is because being old school can push kids away.
Yeah.
And understanding that balance is the biggest challenge and thing to manage.
So will there be like a blinged out tuna boat turnover chain for Point Loma?
With some goggles.
When you look back on your coaching career, who are the people that influenced you the most?
I got a chance to work with Charles James early on in my coaching career. We had a great relationship, and he helped me when I was getting my start in coaching. So he's been really influential. I've been blessed to be around a lot of great assistant coaches. I had a great time working with Tyler Roach last year at La Jolla. We had a really good working relationship, and we had a lot of fun. So I've been blessed to be around a lot of great assistant coaches. The man who influenced me the most, I don't know my background, I'm originally from the Bay Area, but I moved to Colorado right before high school. My high school coach is legendary Mike Circo, who is the maybe 5th or 6th all-time winningest head coach in the state of Colorado. And he was the most influential person on me coming up, and who I always said if I was a coach someday, I would mold myself after.
What do those guys all have in common, in your view? James, Circo, Roach.
They're all about the people around them. They're all about having the right people around them to make sure they get the most out of the kids in the program. They surround themselves with great people.
Yeah, and they don't take the credit for anything usually. They take the blame for everything, but they don't take the credit for anything, which is always great to see.
Territory.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, I would take the credit for everything.
I would too. That's why you and I talk and we don't.
We talk to coaches and we can't coach.
That's why we don't do, and that's why they all hate us.
So, Coach, it seems like in the contemporary game, if you're not winging the ball around the field, you don't attract the 7-on-7 crowd. You know, the 4 yards in the cloud of dust era seems to be over in San Diego high school football. Do you concur?
Yeah, and I think there's going to be some people excited about that change at Point Loma, because that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to run a spread air raid style offense that's also run some power and gap scheme stuff. We're going to sling it around and do 7-on-7 tournaments and early 7-on-7 work and all that stuff. And I think there's a lot of people excited about that at Point Loma.
Any fancy 7-on-7 uniforms you're going to wear? Because that's the thing.
Of course, absolutely. I'm all about the gear and the swag. And the
all right. I was just making sure. All right, you're going to be good at it.
You're singing his song.
You have to fit a fishing boat on there somehow. I don't care. It's an overnight party boat, anything. You got to get a fishing boat on there.
When you look back on it, what's your proudest moment on the football field?
My proudest moment on the football field was we had a game that landed on September 11th, and I was able to honor military and first responder people. And I know it doesn't sound like a traditional win-loss record or a city league title or CIF appearance or how many kids I got to college, because that would make it about me, and it's really not about me. It was being able to honor people and having the opportunity to honor people on a day like that. That was the most special day of my coaching career.
Yeah, I bet. Well, you explain your connection to the military again, sir?
So I was in the Navy for 4.5 years, stationed in Pearl Harbor. And then I got out of the Navy, started working as a contractor. And again, I've been working in Point Loma for 20 years. I've been working for the government now for 10 years. And I run a software program for the Navy.
So I'm assuming, having been at Pearl Harbor for 4 years, you've did the Arizona Memorial at least once in your life.
I saw it every morning for 4.5 years.
Man, does that, I don't know about you, but put a chill up my spine.
Yeah, I had a saying that every year when December 7th rolls around, that if you don't know the significance of that date, you need to educate yourself.
Yeah, to anybody who's watching this and you ever find yourself with the good fortune to make it to paradise, take a moment of time out of your vacation and go to that. I know it's not the easiest thing to do, but boy, it's the next closest thing to it is like walking on the Midway Museum. I mean, you can feel the blood and sweat in the girders, you know.
Yeah, and then also the Missouri is there as well, and then walking on the Missouri and seeing where they signed the treaty for World War II, that's another kind of bone-chilling experience.
Yeah, it really is. All right, so tell us about the team. How good are you going to be?
No, don't do that to
them. We got a big, young core of guys. Like I said, we're going to be light on seniors next year, but really excited about the youth. Got a lot of strong young guys coming up. They're going to get a lot of opportunity to play this year. Had a lot of sophomores contribute last year, so we're going to compete. And the thing I've always respected about Point Loma when playing them, the kids are tough and physical, and we're going to continue that, and we're going to play that way.
Do kids get excited when because like we talked about earlier, everybody wants to run the spread. Do they get excited when they hear spreads coming in as opposed to just pounding the ball or, even a balanced attack? Do they get excited about that?
Yeah, I had my first team meeting with the kids yesterday, and I can tell you the quarterbacks and receivers were very excited.
Yeah. I can imagine.
Yeah, but you know what? Isn't like we were talking to Coach Rashard Cook yesterday, and he was talking about back in the day when Morris was dominating with Coach Shack and whatnot. He said you could take the wind out of you could make people tap out with a superior ground game, and you just would take the will out of your opponent. Why is that era of football gone?
It's true. I mean, I'm telling you, defensively and at the high school level, playing, wing-based teams, whether it's gun tee, wing tee, whatever, it's the biggest challenge to get a defensive kids in high school to stop. It's hard to get them to not look in the backfield and not fall from misdirection. And that old school style of offense still works today, and it does wear down and test your will. And so that's a scheme I've always respected. I know, Point Loma has run flavors with that in the past, and they've had some success doing that. And a lot of people that still run those various offense at the high school level have a ton of success because it's hard to stop if you don't have your kids aren't disciplined on defense.
And I think just watching some of these, it's hard to get kids. Any level, even the D linemen, they're not disciplined. It's just go rush the passer every
Right.
single play. It's hard to watch. In any level now, as opposed to 90s, 2000s when you had to be disciplined because it was a lot of running. But yeah, now it's just everybody runs up the field. It's interesting to watch.
Depending
I'm a big believer in establishing the run game. Even though we are a spread team, we're going to sling it around. I like to be balanced. So not just that throw it 80 times a game guy. I believe in run the football. So we're going to do that.
a lot of schools in town, their claim to fame now is getting kids to the next level, getting them a scholarship, this, that, or the other thing. Is that going to be eventually Point Loma's claim to fame, that, hey, we're going to prepare you for the next level, or is it not about that? Is it just preparing you for life?
I mean, we're going to prepare them for life, and we're going to get the kids that want to play at the next level and have the ability to play at the next level those opportunities. I was able to do that at UC, and I plan to keep doing that at Point Loma. I maintain a recruit list that I share via Google Docs. It's really easy to share with coaches, reach out to the kids. I'm all about communicating with the college coaches. So we're going to get our Point Loma guys every opportunity possible. We're going to definitely focus on that.
Mm-hmm. Again, asking you to speak out of school, what happened at UC that all those kids left?
I actually don't really know why the kids all, a bunch of those kids transferred. I know, some had families move. I'm not really in that level of detail to know exactly what happened, but yeah, they definitely lost some guys.
Yeah, I mean, they had a good thing going there.
Yeah.
So
I was happy to see them have the success they did. Obviously, the COVID season when I was there took a huge toll on us. Our quarterback, that was supposed to be our stud coming into that year, because of all the regulations and not knowing if we were going to have a season, he moved back to Arizona to play there. So ended up with no quarterback and had to have a receiver play quarterback for us. And in a spread offense, the kid did everything he could to will us to win. It was just a really tough situation. And that took took a toll on the program that year.
As we wrap this up, we're
overtime as you always.
Well, all right, but just, Coach, allow me a couple more questions.
Yes, sir.
The ghost of Benny Edens, does he permeate the halls of Point Loma, or this generation of kids don't even know who Coach Edens is?
Coach Edens, the mark of Coach Edens is still all over that program and community. I hear his name on a regular basis. I think, seeing all the old memorabilia walking around the school, in the coach's office. There's restaurants in the community that have articles about Coach Edens, and at Point Loma, part of my goal is to honor that legacy and tradition, like honor everything Coach Edens did, honored everything Coach Hastings did, ton of respect for Coach Allen. So we're going to honor the traditions and the legacy of Point Loma, because that's a huge part of why I wanted this job, is being at a school with such rich history and tradition. But we're also going to do it our way and put our stamp on it and move it forward.
And last question. What you said is just perfect. Do you ever allow yourself a moment thinking that maybe 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 40 years from now, whoever is doing the prep pigskin report is going to be asking the next coach at Point Loma about the ghost of Coach Price? Do you ever allow yourself, that kind of, vision? Like, what is your impact going to be at this institution?
Well, I do cast a pretty large shadow, but I'll say that would be a dream, right? That I could do it for that long and have the same amount of success that the coaches before had, and have my name resonate in the community and have people love and appreciate what we did. That would be the end all be all dream. And again, I think the wins, and if we win championships along the way and all that, will hopefully all come with the territory of doing things the right way. But continuing to build that legacy in Point Loma is why I'm here.
All right, we need to have an Eric Allen night too this year.
Okay.
Football. I mean, at Point Loma. I think you need to have an Eric Allen night.
Oh, yeah. You're going to have.
Absolutely.
Coach, we are calling it a conversation at the 24:30 mark. A couple things. Burt, you're going to get all the social media tags for both Coach and the program so we can tag everybody. Coach, the way this works is we'll put up the raw interview on YouTube later today, maybe in a couple hours, in fact. And then I'll start clipping stuff for our social media, both mine and PPR, in the next day and a half. One thing I could hit you up for, you mentioned the coach, Mike Circo. Do you have any pictures of you and him together?
No, I mean, I haven't spoken to him in a really long time. He moved on to other programs.
All right, well then that's our conversation. I will look him up on the World Wide Web. And Coach, thank you for your time for PPR. PPR podcast number 150 has concluded. Everybody, turn off your machines.